Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Drop, and this is my first impressions look on the Nike GT Cut Academy, right? So this is the budget shoe or the kind of takedown model of the Zoom GT Cut 3 or the GT Cut kind of line, right? So this is the premium version, and Nike made the GT line, which is short for greater than, and it's supposed to kind of be like their Hyperdunk line, but they separated it into three categories. Of course, we have, or it used to be the run, the GT run, but they changed it to the hustle, right? And then we have the GT jump, and then the cut, right? And of course, the cut is more for guards, someone who wants a very responsive shoe, someone who wants to be very quick, right? So they made this shoe, which is freaking expensive. So the GT Cut 3 is 190 bucks, not 170, not 180, it's 190 bucks, which is crazy. And then they made the budget shoe, the budget option, which is this shoe is 95 bucks, which I think is a great price. And does it live up to the hype? Because the GT Cut shoe is pretty dang popular. I've seen a lot of GT Cuts around the gym. So if you guys do want to copy, try to leave in the feed link in the description box. But let's get it started right off with the Tracciones, and we have pretty much a full-on herringbone traction pattern, and it looks very similar to the GT Cut 3, which makes sense, of course, because it took a lot of inspiration from it, right? So we have kind of like a decoupled outsole, right? Same thing here in the academies, and the pattern is pretty much a herringbone traction pattern. It is slightly different, but very similar in a lot of ways, especially here in the heel as well. Look at that. So how does the traction feel so far? It feels really, really nice. Whatever they did with the rubber compound is biting really well on my wood floors. And also there is a nice loud high-pitched squeak, which I do like. Of course, that has nothing to do with performance, but it's nice that it does have that, right? And same thing with the GT Cut 3, right? So in this color, we have a fully translucent outsole, and then in the Academy, we have a solid rubber outsole, and they both feel very good so far. And of course, I did play in the GT Cut 3s. I've been playing in it, and it actually feels really nice for the traction so far, and hopefully the Academy lives up to that. As far as the durability goes, also it says that it's made for multiple surfaces, right? So I'm guessing Nike is saying that it's also made for outdoor use, right? So, and it makes sense, right? We have a lot of surface area, right? We have a lot of grooves here. The rubber is actually quite hard, and the grooves are super duper deep. So here in the forefoot, here in the heel, you should be fine on the outdoor court. It feels very, very durable, and it feels even better than the GT Cut 3 because there is less surface area. As you guys can see, the herringbone traction pattern, the grooves are a lot more separated, right? But here in the Academy, we have a lot more grooves. They're a lot closer together. Hopefully it doesn't pick up as much dust, so that might be a little bit more of a problem for dust, but for outdoor use, the Academy will definitely be better. So yeah, I'm very, very excited to play in the Academy because the traction feels like it's gonna be very good. And now moving on to the heel to toe transition, it feels really good so far, right? So here in the heel, we have a nice rounded shape, right? Pretty much fully exposed foam, and they're using Renew foam. So it has a little bit of compression here in the heel, so it feels nice here in the heel. And then the forefoot, we have a very nice curved shape and a little bit of forefoot flex. It's actually quite stiff, right? It doesn't really want to bend that much, and it actually bends a lot here. Look at that in the midfoot. So I'm guessing they don't have a midfoot chain plate, right? Not a huge deal. If you need torsional support, of course that's not going to be the best, but for most people you should be fine. And like I said, it is pretty stiff here in the forefoot. Here in the GT Cut 3, it's actually a lot more flexible, and it has a very nice rebound back. Look at that. It has a very nice springy feel, which makes this shoe feel a little bit more premium in that way. So I like that about the GT Cut 3 a little bit better, but of course it is almost $100 more, right? So that makes sense. All right, moving on to the cushioning setup. Like I said, the foam that they're using here in the Academy is Renew foam, and Nike uses Renew foam a lot in their cheaper shoes, right? So that makes sense. It's weird because they have the tech specs of the GT Academy for the GT Cut 3s. I don't know why it was there, because when I went to check the tech specs for the Academy, it just says regular foam. It doesn't even say Renew foam, right? But anyways, it feels pretty nice. You know, there's a nice little compression here in the heel. It's soft, it's pretty comfortable. I like that so far. But as you guys all know, Cushlon, Renew foam, Lunarlon, from Nike, they all bottom out very quickly. And that makes sense because they use it usually in their budget shoes, right? For their more expensive shoes, they use React, they use, of course, they use Zoom X, you know? So that makes sense, you know, it feels really nice so far, but I'm sure this will bottom out pretty quickly. And there's also a zoom unit in the forefoot, but it's bottom loaded, which sucks, right? So of course, you're not gonna feel anything. I mean, I got this shoe in, and also I got the Jordan 1 Take 5 in, and the 1 Take 5 has a top loaded zoom unit. Of course, a lot of other shoes that are cheaper from Nike, like the Jaw 1, the Sabrina 1, are all pretty much top loaded zoom units. So I don't know why they changed it to a bottom loaded zoom unit here in the forefoot, and I don't like that. And obviously you can't really feel the zoom unit as much, and you're probably not going to be able to feel the zoom unit here in the Academy. And as far as the court feel goes, the court feel seems pretty good. It's not amazing, but I would say it's around average. So yeah, I mean, for a $95 shoe, it's pretty good coming from Nike, you know what I mean, because Renew and all that. But I mean, there's a lot of other shoes that are way better for cushion for a better price, right? So like, you know, the AG4 is super duper soft, especially with the soft mesh Trouble board. It's $100 shoe. Same thing with the AR1, and honestly even the Jaw 1 seems a little bit better, right? And also stepping comfort isn't that amazing either, right? It's just a regular Ortholite insole. It's nothing crazy. And then underneath that we have a very stiff Trouble board. So it makes sense, you know. That's what Nike cuts back on a lot in their budget shoes, which is cushion. And then moving on to the upper, we have a pretty nice upper, right? They're not using a crappy feeling mesh. You guys remember like 5 years ago they used to have crap mesh, you know? But now with this text, it's basically like a textile mesh material. It feels pretty dang nice. It's pretty supportive, right? There's not a whole lot of stretch to it, which I do like. And also it feels plush, but also pretty thin at the same time, which is kind of hard to do. And it doesn't feel super duper cheap, which, I mean, it does feel cheap, of course. It looks pretty cheap, but it's not terribly cheap, you know? There is a little bit of fuse here in the toe box on the medial side, but it feels really nice here in the toe box. It conforms to my foot very well. There's also a little bit of embroidery as well, right? So here on the medial side, also here on the lateral side, I'm guessing for more support. And then for the tongue, there's actually a little bit of padding as well. It feels pretty nice and cozy on top of your foot. It's also a half booty construction tongue. It says GT Cut Academy as well on top of the tongue. And then here in the ankle area, there's a very minimal amount of padding. I would say less than average. So overall, like on foot, it feels great. You know, it's a pretty plush upper that feels pretty thin, supportive, and it conforms to my foot very well. And it does all of that. It pretty much checks off the list of what I want from a material. And it does it well for a $95 shoe. You know, like I said, it's not the best for material quality. I mean, especially here around the eyelets, we have like the synthetic material. That's pretty cheap, but on foot it feels great, right? So there's that. Moving on to the fit, I went up half a size and it fits me very well, right? So there is a tiny bit of length. I would say just a tiny bit, but I feel like if I went true to size, it would be a little too snug lengthwise, so just be careful with that. I guess if you want a really snug fit, then go true to size, but I would suggest most people go up half a size, right? Also here in the toe box, it is quite a snug fit. It's not super duper snug, but it feels pretty cozy and pretty snug for the toe space here. And also width-wise, I would say it is slightly narrow. So overall, going up half a size for me, it's a very nice fit. And like I said, I would suggest most people do the same as well, unless you want a really snug fit. And if you have a wide foot, probably go up a full size, right? And now moving on to the support and lockdown, it feels like it'll be pretty dang good. Like I said, this material overall does feel pretty dang supportive. Of course, comparing it to like the Dawn HU5, which has like a synthetic material, it's not going to be as supportive, but this mesh material, like especially for a mesh, it feels pretty dang nice, right? And also here in the forefoot, we have a little bit of rubber coming up, right? Acting as a sidewall. It also says Air Zoom right here. And then here in the heel, we have a little bit of the cushion coming up, acting as a sidewall, and it feels like there's an internal TPO heel counter. So lateral containment feels like it's going to be good, and also lateral stability feels like it's going to be good as well, right? We have an outrigger. It's pretty sharp. It's very wide, so that'll be very good for lateral stability. And also moving on to the weight of the shoe, this shoe feels very light, right? Renew foam is extremely light, and that's what I like about Nike. Nike makes very lightweight foams. Adidas, for example, and also Puma, all their foams are very high density. They're very heavy, so it contributes a lot to the weight, because most of the weight of any shoe comes from, of course, the rubber outsole and also the midsole, you know? So I'm guessing this will be pretty light, like 11 ounces? Oh wow, 10.7 ounces. Let's check the other shoe. 10.75 ounces. That's compared to the $100 more expensive shoe, the GT Cut 3, which is 10.9 ounces. So of course, yeah, because Zoom X is so light and also Renew is so light, both of these shoes are extremely light, and it makes sense, right? Usually cheaper shoes are very, very light because the shoe lacks tech, right? It feels extremely light, it feels very minimal as well, and hopefully it's responsive, but it also feels like it'll be very responsive because so far the traction feels really nice, right? So I like how the shoe feels overall. And now moving on to the aesthetics, I love it. It looks like a Precision, right? You know, like the Precision 6, it was an amazing shoe. I definitely feel like that's kind of what they were going for, you know, like a very, very cheap model, but with a little bit better tech because the Precisions never had zoom. But it's just like a very simple low top design, right? And we have a Nike swoosh where it's usually supposed to be. And yeah, I really like it so far. It feels like it'll be a very, very good responsive budget shoe, especially for guards. And obviously it's the GT Cut, right? And it's made for guards, so that makes sense. Honestly, we'll have to see which shoe is better. I mean, obviously the GT Cut 3 is supposed to be better, but is it worth $100 more than the GT Cut Academy? We'll have to see on that. I still have to fully test both of the shoes, but I'm very excited about that. But also, I'm very excited about the GT Cut Academy. Can't wait to lace these up and play them. But yeah, my first impressions of this shoe are very, very good. And if you guys do want to cop, I'll try to leave a free link in the description box. But that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.